Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas.
Hey, what's up, listeners? Welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world, and I want to welcome you to today's session. This is a mashup where I have three wonderful guests, and I'm going to introduce you to them very shortly. Hey team, if you haven't already checked out the Facebook group or the LinkedIn page, Leadership is Changing, go ahead and do that. We'd love to see you there on those different platforms and joining those community. The other thing I'd like you to do is go ahead and share this episode with three other people. Go ahead and share this whole podcast with other people as well, because I'm meeting people all the time and I'm talking to them about the podcast, and then I'm getting messages from them later on saying how much they're actually really enjoying the podcast and the value they're getting from the interviews and also the Ask Denis freestyle episodes as well. All right, team, we've got three wonderful guests here. From episode 32, John Lee Dumas, or as people call him, JLD. He's the host of the award-winning podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you haven't already checked that out, go and check out that podcast. It is awesome. From episode 34, Trey Carmichael is his name, Trey Carmichael. And he's the host of a podcast called Virtually Limitless. Great guy, great young guy. He's very young and worthwhile checking out that podcast. And episode 35, Katrien Gonce. She is from Europe and been an executive sales leader and marketing facilitator. And she is a wonderful entrepreneur and coach, helping with people, helping them develop their businesses and themselves personally, and a wonderful lady to be around. So, three wonderful guests, JLD or John Lee Dumas, Trey Carmichael, and Katrien Gonce, who's going to share some wonderful insights with you on this mashup. Hey, John, welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us as a guest. John, I've got a few questions for you. The first question is, who's your favorite leader? Now, this person could be alive or from history. So who's your favorite leader and why?
Well, first off, Denis, it is a pleasure to be here. Congratulations on all the success and all the inspiration, impact, and motivation you're spreading with the world. So please keep up the heat, my man. And I will say, I love to read biographies. I've just been a big consumer of those over the years. And one that's always stuck with me that I've actually gone back and reread a couple times is Benjamin Franklin's biography. I just loved it. And one thing that I love about him specifically as a human being is he doesn't take life too seriously. Like, he's quirky, he has fun, he still jokes around. He wasn't just this like incredibly serious person that just thought everything he did was the end of the world or the beginning of the world. Like, it was just something he did, and he was dust in the wind. And like this one go round in life, he was going to have as much fun as he could. And he did, and he made massive impacts and all these inventions and all these different ambassador things and yada, yada. But at the end of the day, he was himself and he had fun doing it. And that's why I admire him, because honestly, in this one life I have to live, I want to have fun.
Yeah. Best way to do it, isn't it? Have fun. I mean, who wants to be around somebody who's miserable? I'd rather be around somebody who's too right. Hey, here's a question for you. Hey, who's your favorite leader? Now, this person could be alive or they could be dead, in other words, from history. So who is your favorite leader and why?
My favorite leader The one that's probably had the most impact on me is going to be Napoleon Hill. When I was very much like starting to change my life, the first two personal development books that I read were Outwitting the Devil and Think and Grow Rich. And to this day, I practice most of the principles that I learned from those books, and I teach those to other people. And that's kind of the definition of a leader, is that they pass things down, and then it's important enough to keep getting passed down. So that's the leader that's impacted me the most.
Yeah, listeners, so if you're a leader out there, don't just hang on to stuff that you're learning. If you've got something to share it with people, because that's our responsibility, right? If we want to go out there and help as many people as we can, which is really, really important. And Think and Grow Rich, what an awesome book that is. There, I've learned so much from that book, and just got to keep going back to it, right? You got to keep going back and revisiting it all the time.
Absolutely. Those are two of the only books I've reread.
Oh, awesome, man. Hey, tell me something. If I was to ask you a question, which is, who is your favorite leader? Now, this leader can be somebody who's alive or from history. So who is your favorite leader and why?
Well, my favorite leader is still alive, and it's John Maxwell. I have been a follower, and I became a leader as a certified coach of him. Why? Because he has so much value, and he's teaching, educating, and giving the good example. And I have been educated on a high level, and sometimes it was difficult for me to find the right kind of people with the same kind of mindset, same values, especially in leadership, everywhere in the world. I'm also a woman of faith, and in Europe, in parts of Europe, not everybody is a follower of faith, and it's difficult because John Maxwell his values are high, and that's what I like. I appreciate, and sometimes you encounter a lot of obstacles because of this in structures with partners, with business partners, and that's the learning process. But if you stick to it, for me, it's important to know. He always says you don't have a business system, but you can learn it to the people. And for me, I love John. I'm still happy he's there to give us coaching. And this is one of the biggest stone in my personal development.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. I love this man, and I have one other person, because you can always do personal development, but I also found a new person, DT Fox, and he is really the vertical thinker. And because of his coaching in the beginning, I stepped up, and this is why I created also this new company, and it's thinking in another way. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, great. Yeah. So for those listeners who may have heard the name John Maxwell, so John C. Maxwell, he is an author and a speaker. Now, John's written over 80 books on leadership and team buildings and things like that. And so he is known as the #1 leadership guru in the world, and a great guy. And so I've been studying him over 30 years, and Marie and I have been with him one-on-one. We've met him, and great guy several times. And so John has some great wisdom and teaching around leadership, and Marie's just touched on that as well. So that's one of your favorite leaders. So that's great. I know for a lot of us, we have many favorite leaders, but that's one of them, which is great for you to share. Oh, John, Trey, and Marie, thank you so much for sharing those wonderful insights. And listeners, hope you got some really cool things from that. Small snippets from each one of them based on their episodes, where I actually had the privilege to sit down with them and interview JLD, Trey, and Marie. So if you haven't already checked out those episodes, go to episode 32 for JLD. Trey is on episode 34, and on episode 35 is Marie. Go ahead and check out those episodes, team. Love for you to hear the full insights from each one of my guests. Hey, team, if you haven't already checked out episode 00, go ahead and do that. That's my sort of like 3 to 4 minute intro into why I have started the podcast. If you haven't already joined us on the Facebook group or the LinkedIn page, go ahead and do that. We'd love to see you on those different communities and platforms. And it's just wonderful to have people there and seeing them learn so much. Hey, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed that mashup. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown and unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Look out for the episodes as they're being released. Download them, have a list, put a review and a rating. Hey, if there's any feedback you'd like to give me about the show, then feel free to send me an email, or if there's any questions you have for my friends, my guests, when I'm interviewing them, or if you have a question for me on the Ask Denis Freestyle episode, then feel free to send me an email, denis@leadingchangepartners.com. Hey team, as I said before, please go ahead and share this episode with 3 other people, and in fact, the whole podcast with other people, because we know that they're going to get tremendous value from listening to the podcast. Hey, thanks for tuning in today, and until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.